John Travolta as a master thief who maybe gets in a little over his head. Let's talk about Cash Out. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk to you about Cash Out, which is coming to theaters, digital, and on demand on April 26, 2024. It's a new film starring John Travolta and Kristin Davis, where John Travolta is a master thief who maybe has a job that gets a little bit over his head. My hot take is, like, I think you should pass on it. It's not a bad film. It has some entertaining moments and characters, but ultimately it is kind of too slow to be much of a thriller and not enough action to really be a good heist movie. I liked parts of it, but overall, I didn't enjoy this as much as I expected to. So my recommendation would be to pass on it. But all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some surprises and a twist at the end. And I would turn it off when I get to the ending section. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free, and I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Cash Out, you have John Travolta as Mason Goddard, who is the leader of a kind of high-end group of thieves. They are all very, very skilled at what they do. It's kind of like a similar feeling to like some of the older Fast and the Furious movies where, I guess John Travolta would be Vin Diesel, and the rest of the crew are the various cast members that come in. They all have a good time. They all try to like get the heist done. They try not to like hurt people. They're doing it for fun, and they are just very, very good at it. But there is a job that comes up that maybe might be a little bit over their head. And will Mason be able to figure out what to do? Well, you have to watch the movie to find out. So, all that being said, things I liked about this film. The first, I like John Travolta's character. I like the Mason character. He is this like overconfident, super calm thief. He was like a fun main character. It made the heist kind of nice when you got someone who was like constantly in command. Didn't make it super tense though, but it did make it kind of nice to have a, you know, thoughtful, careful, calm master thief who's like looking out for the hostages, looking out for people, never kind of seems too concerned about what's going on. So I enjoy his character. The second thing I liked, kind of related, I liked the crew. The crew was fun. You've got John Travolta as Mason, you've got Lukas Haas as his brother Shawn, who is messing up a little bit. Like he's living in his brother's shadow, trying to do things on his own, but never actually doing it quite right. You've got kind of the 2 point people who take care of the hostages and some of the other stuff. You've got Noel Gugliemi as Hector and Quavo as Anton. I actually really liked Anton's character. He was a lot of fun. He was, also very respectful of the hostages. Had a lot of quips here and there. He's a little bit funnier. Hector was, I guess, more muscle, but together they were pretty fun. And then you have Natali Yura as a Link, who is their like computer expert. So overall, the crew had some good personalities, and it was fun to see them kind of work together and see how they like handled the situations. And I always had this feeling like that they had control. So I like John Travolta's character. And I like the crew. So the third thing I liked, there are some really nice cars, and that's not the main part of this movie, but there is a scene with all these really fancy, nice cars. If you're a car person, you're going to love that scene. So all that being said, things I didn't like as much about this movie. The first, there was some pretty bad effects, some bad CG effects. There's like a spotlight during a helicopter scene that is clearly CG. A car goes in the water and that is CG. There's like an explosion that is CG. It's not great. It's very obvious, and it has a lot at the start, which kind of makes it not a great start for the film. The second thing I didn't love as much, I didn't love the writing. It's not really great writing. It's was fairly basic. It didn't really have, I don't know, much nuance to it, and it felt kind of like it got the job done, but it didn't do much more than that. The third thing I didn't love as much, I'm gonna call it like strange action shots. There were a lot of like, I think they looked like they were drone assisted shots, although I couldn't tell if it was actually a drone that did it or if it was like CG rendering what a drone would look like. Because when these happened, it looked off, and it also made these action scenes like almost feel like there was too much action because you have like a sweeping drone scene and then another sweep, and it just would go back and forth, and it made it tough to follow. And also, it looked like it was maybe CG. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if it was actually CG done or if it was like a drone camera that was used to capture. But either way, it didn't have the right effect on me. It didn't look that good. It didn't look that exciting. The fourth thing I didn't love as much, there are some strange cuts. There's some cuts that happen where like a scene feels like it ends maybe a little bit too quickly or transitions a little bit too quickly. It's more towards the start. Once you get into like the main heist, these cuts don't seem to happen as much. So maybe it was just kind of like piecing together the start of the movie, and then once they got into the main heist, it was fine. But there are some weird cuts in it. And the last thing I didn't love as much, it has a pretty quick, convenient ending. It feels like it ends a little bit too quickly, a little bit too conveniently. It's not bad. Again, none of these is that bad, but overall, it just the ending was a little bit unfulfilling. So all that being said, Cash Out is releasing in theaters, digital, on demand on April 26, 2024. My recommendation is to pass on it, but you know what? If you do check it out, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. Let me know I got right and wrong. I would love to hear it. And I'm going to really quickly go to the ending right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So Cash Out starts with John Travolta as Mason and Kristin Davis as Amy. They are at this like really fancy reception, I guess, with like I assume billionaires, maybe some bad people. And while they're there, they find the host and get the host to show them his car collection. He's a big car collector. He has all these really amazing cars. You know what? That is actually something I really liked. I'll say that a thing I liked. The cars were fantastic. There was like a Lamborghini, there was a Bugatti, there was a Pagani. There were a lot of really great cars. So if you like cars, you will like that scene. And while Mason and Amy are there, they find this like super limited edition Pagani car that they really love. And so they ask the owner, hey, can we like sit in it? He's like, oh yeah, sure, you can sit in it. Like, hey, can we start it up just to hear the engine? And at this point, he should be like having red flags going off. But he's like, sure, you can start it up. So they start it up. And he's like, okay, now stop it, stop it, stop it. And that is when the rest of the crew come in. They like subdue the guards in a non-violent way, which again, that's kind of their MO. Link comes in and like does some stuff, like hits the lights, opens the doors, all that stuff, and Mason and Amy drive off. And it seems like everything's going well. They drive off, they get the car into the whatever truck they're using to transport it, and they start moving. But unfortunately, a ton of FBI people uh jump in, and there's a chase here where Anton is the driver. He's trying to get them out, and it is not a great chase. Like they do what they can, but it's not really an exciting action scene. And again, Anton's driving like a truck with like a trailer towing like a 2,000 pound car. Actually, I don't know how heavy a Zonda is. Maybe a Pagani is a little bit lighter than 2,000 pounds. But either way, it's not a high speed chase, and they try to make it into a high speed chase, and it just doesn't look great. But they do all of this, and Mason is just trying to figure out like what's happening. He is a planner. He always like knows what to do. And so he's trying to figure out like what went wrong, what went wrong. And that is when we find out that Amy, who was apparently under deep cover for 2 years with him, I guess like she was living with him for 2 years. It seems like a very long op, but whatever. She actually works for the FBI. She pulls a gun on Mason, tells him to like give up, and he doesn't want to. He doesn't, he knows that she's probably not going to shoot. And you can tell that she's a little bit conflicted. She like wants to make sure that he stays okay, and she's like, just give it up, you'll be fine. Mason doesn't want to do that. He activates Plan B. They always have like a Plan A and a Plan B if things go wrong. And the crew's like, we've never done Plan B. Are you sure? He's like, yes. So their Plan B is to drive the truck off of a pier. And so the truck goes into the water. That beautiful, beautiful Pagani theoretically in the movie goes in the water and is probably destroyed. And this is not a great scene because like it was all CG. The truck in the water was CG. Thankfully, the Victorya wasn't actually destroyed, so I guess that's good. But they drive it into the water, and that's it. That's the plan. Uh, Amy, I guess, escapes and goes back to the FBI. Mason and all of them like swim not very far, like 30 feet, and get out, and they've all escaped. I mean, there was like a helicopter with a spotlight. There were like 30 police cars chasing them. I don't think they would just be like, well, they're in the water. Guess there's nothing we can do. The helicopter should have been there on them. The police car should have like circled around. I don't know. They should have had like wave runner, like sea-doos or something getting them. None of that happens. The crew all escapes, and they're like, well, that was a little bit too close. I guess we're done. And Mason is also upset because he really did love Amy, and Amy turned out to be an FBI agent. So he wants to get out of it. He decides to retire with the money that he's already made to this like private island he owns, which Amy apparently knows about. I guess maybe they can't do anything about it because I assume the island is not in America. So maybe like they can't arrest him there. You'd think they would figure out something to do. But in any event, Mason goes to retire on his private island. Fast forward, I think 3 months, and his brother Shawn comes and says like, "Hey, like we've got a job. I want you to jump in." And Mason's like, "No, like I'm done. You should be done too. This is it." A little bit later, Link, who's their like computer expert, calls and's like, "You need to get on a plane now. Something bad is happening." Fast forward to Seattle, And apparently Shawn decided to go through with the job even though Mason didn't want to get in. And that's not a good thing because Shawn is Mason's brother. He doesn't have Mason's like flair for planning. So Shawn comes in a little bit haphazardly. Mason shows up right when the job's about to start. He tries to get Shawn to like stop it, but they keep going. They go into this heist, and that is when, kind of organized chaos happens. Shawn gets shot, but it's only on the side, so he's okay. But they eventually get all the hostages down. They're in this bank, and now they have to try to get into this lockbox. This specific lockbox that Shawn says has a crypto wallet, a very valuable crypto wallet that has like 600 million in crypto. So that is what their plan is. They're gonna break into this bank, get this crypto wallet, take the manager hostage, and it keeps going like bad for them. He like tries to get the manager to open the safe, and the manager, does exactly what he says, like uses his finger, but I guess there's also like a retinal scan that the manager doesn't do, which causes an alarm to pop up. So after the cops get alerted, they surround the place, but Mason and crew have to keep going. Anton and Hector are keeping the hostages subdued. Link is using her link powers, and Mason and Shawn are trying to figure out how to get into this crypto wallet. And eventually they get to the lockbox, but they need 2 keys. And the manager's like, like, there's nothing I can do. Like, you need the owner key. Thankfully, this lockbox with a key can apparently be hacked. So Link is able to hack the lockbox. Sure. And when they get into the locker, Shawn's really excited. He's like, yes, yes, yes. But there's no crypto in there. Sorry, Shawn. I guess this whole heist was for nothing. Now, um, at this time, we also have the FBI show up, and wouldn't you know it, Amy is there. And so Amy's on the FBI side, Mason is on the criminal side, and they begin negotiating, they begin talking. It is pretty cute. Like, you can tell that Mason still has feelings for Amy, and so like when they're talking, they are, Mason is doing whatever he can just to, like, get her there. So at one point he like asks for pizzas. And so when Mason asks for these pizzas, he says Amy delivers it specifically so he can see her one more time. And so now Shawn is trying to figure out like what is up with this lockbox. So he opens it up, and inside there's a bunch of stuff, and they eventually find a postcard with like a picture of a boat that has 2134 on it. And Shawn like is like, oh, maybe this is a secret for the next level of this lockbox. Like maybe this lockbox leads to another one. And so Link puts that number in the algorithm, and it leads to this person, Isabel Faro, who is supposed to be the one that had the crypto wallet. That was who Shawn was going to get it from. So they put 2134 into an algorithm of some sort, and it spit out Isabel Faro. Now they have this number. Mason, basically forces the manager to figure out what's going on. He's like, take me to box 2134. And the manager's like, it's not a box, it's a building. And apparently this bank, the next building over, has other lockboxes, more advanced lockboxes. And this first lockbox is just like a cover to get to the like other building that has other lockboxes. And eventually what we find out is that in that building is that building holds information for this person named Abel Salazar, I think, this like international criminal whose girlfriend is Isabel Faro. So this whole thing might have been a ruse. The Mason says that whole building is like their secret place to store dirt. So this criminal uses this infrastructure to store, I guess, dirt on, I don't know, others, himself, maybe probably people in power. And so this would be a big score if they're able to get it. But they also are worried that they're going to be dead because now they know about this like secret dirt box location in this building next to this bank, and that might already put them in trouble. Now, when Mason finds out about this whole thing, he gets a little upset. He said, he thinks that Amy at the FBI set them all up. She used her connections. She like got Shawn to do this, and that they wanted Mason, I guess, to get this dirt box. Amy says that she didn't know this. Probably true. But then she calls her boss. Apparently her boss is the one behind this. They wanted to get this dirt, this information, so that they could take down Salazar, I guess. But they couldn't do it because as soon as they started like mucking around, they said like the corrupt CIA would have told Salazar and they would have moved the box. And so there's nothing that the FBI could have done because the corrupt CIA would have done something. And so they needed to use criminals to get to the box, to get the information in the box, to then be able to take out Salazar. Sure. Now, unfortunately for everyone, the corrupt CIA apparently is already involved, and they send in the military. They send in JSOC as the Joint Special Operations Command to come and take over this operation, which I don't know. That I don't really see how JSOC would be involved. This really feels like more of an FBI matter. But the military comes in, they are the bad guys. And as an aside, when the military shows up, I mean, they tried, but most of these people don't look like special forces soldiers. They don't look, the military folks don't look great. The commander of JSOC, he's got a nice tone. Like he feels like he could be like a military commander, but some of the soldiers don't look or move like military, and it doesn't make for some very exciting scene later. But in any event, now we have the military here. They want to get in there. They want to stop this whole situation. Not good, but now that the team is committed to this, they have to get to that box to get that information and figure out what to do. So they come up with another alternative to walking to the building. They're going to like break through some walls. Apparently this building has some shared walls, which I think is probably some sort of housing, like some sort of building violation, like underground walls. They start breaking through some walls. They break through some drywall. They break through some brick. Eventually they are able to get in. And again, another side, this like super secure building has a way that they can like break in along the side just through some brick. You would think if it was like an actual very secure place, there'd be some sort of additionally difficult to break into material, steel, something, who knows. No, they're able to break in through bricks. They finally get into this building, and in the building is this super server setup. It's like very tech-like, and again, you would think that this room would be secure somehow, but it's not. It just has bricks along the wall. But they were able to break in. They figure out what this box is, and it's a hard drive. 2134, box 2134 is a hard drive that apparently has all the dirt that Salazar has gathered, or maybe it has dirt on Salazar. And this whole location is a private server farm, like a private cloud for the elite. So they don't use our normal clouds. They use this like special server cloud so that none of their stuff can be tracked. All right. Now, Link goes in and like grabs the hard drive and starts uploading the data, I assume to like her own private Dropbox, which again I thought was weird because you would think if this was like an actual dirt drive, like a drive of all this dirt, it would at least be encrypted. It's right? Like you would think that they would at least go to that length. I guess I don't know, maybe it's not, I'm not sure, but Link starts uploading the data, but they need some time. And so what the crew does is they're worried that the military is going to come in and start taking them out. So they start letting out the hostages. They let them out a lot at a time, which I thought was weird. They should have spaced it out, but maybe they were worried they're getting on a short leash. So they let out all the hostages. Then the crew all go out slowly. They go out one at a time. So you've got, I think Hector was first, and then Anton, and then Shawn. All of this is to buy time. Now, unfortunately, after Shawn gets out, it feels like the military folks get nervous. And so they just like say, we're going to go in, we're going in. And they go in, smoke, they start going in, clearing. They go through the entire bank and they're like, we don't know where they are. They apparently didn't see the giant hole in the basement where they went through the wall to the other magic room, but it's okay. They call their boss and their boss is like, keep looking for them. You'll find them. And eventually, I guess they find this giant hole. And so they get into the server room and the military folks are all there. And they're like, telling them to get on the ground, get on the ground. And Mason very calmly says, like, he needs to speak to Mr. Flowers, who was like Salazar's liaison. Who had, I think he'd come up earlier. And so he said he needs to speak to Mr. Flowers. And the military folks are like, this is your last warning. And Mason's like, and this is yours. And then you see a scene from outside where that building blows up with like C4 explosions. So not good for anyone in the room. After that, Amy is debriefed, and the person tells her that he's sorry about Mason. Her like boss who set this whole thing up says he's sorry about Mason. So the assumption is that Mason died. They said that the dirt box was never found, and that Mason and Link's bodies were never found, and the crew members also just kind of vanished off the grid. And they're like, "Is there something you're not telling me about?" And Amy apparently doesn't say anything. They show a scene with her getting like a postcard with like a strawberry on it that has like an address on it. I assume maybe that's, the meetup spot. And you then see like Amy walking out and her badge is on the table. So I guess she quit after that whole incident, and she's leaving. And then we see her walking into this beautiful island, which is Mason's magical island, Mason's special island, and she's there. Mason's there. He expected to see her. They have a drink, and then she starts telling him the story. And so what happened is when Mason apparently asked for Mr. Flowers, Mr. Flowers got there. And Mason basically says, like, we have the hard drive uploaded, meet our demands, or the hard drive gets released. And his demands were he wants his crew released immediately. He wants them to have new identities. That's how they disappeared. He wants all the crew to get $10 million each. And he wants $1 million for the bank manager and $1 million for each of the hostages. And Mr. Flowers is like, okay, but what's our guarantee that the dirt box stays buried? And Mason's like, you have my word, but you also don't have a choice. So they shake on it, and then they say, how should we? Mr. Flowers goes, well, how should we proceed? And Mason's like, well, first we should blow that C4 up and take it from there. So they get a little bit of a cut when he said, and this is your final warning. I assume that means then Mr. Flowers showed up. And that's when that scene happened. And then they cut to the explosion. So they blew up everything to make it look like no one survived. So it seems like they survived. It seems like, they got out, they got new identities. So hopefully, I guess they're all living their life. And I guess it's a happy ending. But and now Mason is spending his time on this island with Amy, his love, who is now there. Now she has quit her FBI job, and now I guess she's gonna hang out on this island for the rest of her life. Doesn't seem too bad, right? Seems okay. Now, Mason and Amy continue talking, and they're like, isn't it funny that the greatest score ever was a result of my brother's incompetence? And Amy says, I think it's perfect. And then they kiss, and it's a happy ending. So it all's well that ends well, but that is Cash Out. Like I said, I think you should pass on it. It had some things I liked, but overall, it just wasn't a strong enough heist movie. It wasn't a strong enough thriller movie. So I think you should pass on it. But if you do check it out, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you. Yeah, Noel Gugliemi as Hector, and you've got Noel Gugliemi.